Hello there and welcome to the Fastmarkets Live Lounge, brought to you by Aquatech. And we're recording this episode live on location. We are here at the Lithium Supply and Battery Raw Materials Conference in Las Vegas. Now, I'm Georgia Tolley, and joining me today is someone who probably needs no real introduction for anyone who closely follows the lithium markets, because Howard Klein is the founder and partner at RK Equity. Now, they're a boutique capital markets advisory firm with a sharp focus on lithium and also battery materials. Now, he's been advising and raising capital across the natural resources sector for the past 25 years. He's also really well known as the voice behind Lithium Iron Bull newsletter and Rockstock channel on YouTube. Now, Howard has a really sharp eye for market shifts. He's got a deep network across both sides of the lithium trade and a real passion for communicating complex market dynamics in a way that's both accessible and also engaging. Howard, welcome, and lovely to have you on the opposite side of the mic for once.
Thank you, Georgia, and wonderful intro. I'm very flattered. Appreciate it.
Well, it's good to have you join us, and let's start at the very beginning. What was it that first sparked your interest in this sector, and how did your career then take hold?
Well, post 9/11, I had been working for Société Générale French Bank as an equity salesperson, focused on emerging market equities in Eastern Europe and South Africa, Israel, and a whole bunch of places. And they shut that business down, and I found myself in between jobs. And someone introduced me at that time to Robert Friedland, a very famous mining entrepreneur who had a very big project in Mongolia, copper project. And it was a time in the market similar to what we find ourselves in lithium today, a down market. And there was a scandal in Indonesia, the BRIEX scandal in the late 1990s. And by 2002, no one was investing in junior mining. And he said, but this is an emerging market story, right? This is Mongolia going to China. China was going to have a big super cycle, and he was talking about that 2 years before that actually really came to fruition. So I started promoting junior mining companies at the, working at the knee of the master, Robert Friedland, and so that's how I got involved in the sector, and it was in copper. And then it was the end of that negative cycle. Like within 6 months or 12 months of starting to work together, Ivanhoe stock went from $3 to $17. And I said, you know what? Instead of going back to Wall Street, why not find more Roberts and build a business around that? And that's what I've been doing for 23 years. And Lithium started 7 or 8 years after that, and we could talk about that, in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to just cast back for 1 minute, because when you were at Société Générale, you were used to quite a sort of volatile period. I mean, you were on the desk during the Asia financial crisis, the Russian default, the dot-com boom, and then, as you mentioned, 9/11. That must give you an enormous amount of perspective considering the lithium market now.
Yes. The 1998 period to 2001 period was extremely volatile, and I've embraced volatility. What could I say? Like, emerging markets are risky. Early stage mining is very risky, and a lot of early stage mining takes place in emerging markets. So I have had, most of my career, I have experienced the immense volatility. Equities are risky. Everything I do is in the highest risk category: pre-revenue, venture capital in emerging markets. And but I have a lot of scars to prove it. But I've also had very positive bull market experiences, and having been through so many cycles, I recognize this as just another cycle, and we're definitely much closer to the end of this cycle than the beginning. And the next boom, I think, is coming, hopefully sooner rather than later. And sticking through the downturns and staying relevant and staying connected to what's happening. Every single downturn we've invested into, we've come out the other side better, and that's what we're doing through this downturn.
I mean, there's a clear picture of success there, a success story for RK Equity. And you mentioned there that you had, learnt at the knees of various different mentors. What have you learned from them ultimately when it comes to being a successful CEO?
Resilience, persistence, never give up, and just nothing's ever as good or bad as it seems. That's actually a quote from Scott Galloway, who I've read a number of his books, The Algebra of Happiness. So when the lithium times were awesome a couple of years ago, it was not as good as it seemed, and right now it's not as bad as it seems. So just using that mantra to kind of power through is something that, that's a major lesson.
I mean, you've been in the sector yourself now for decades. People must be learning from you. Do you act as a mentor to people in the industry as well?
A lot of people have come to me at this conference who I've never seen before, but they come out of their way and say, thanks so much, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
The industry needs, the information and the optimism. And so in that sense, it's an indirect mentorship.
Yeah.
I'm not directly mentoring, too many. We're mentoring or we're advising a number of companies. And as I've gotten older, it used to be everyone was older than me. Now there's a number of companies, and CEOs who are younger than me. So yes, I guess they do value our capital markets expertise and our connectivity to all the players who are in the industry, because there's been a lot of new entrants into lithium as the industry has grown so much. And that's reflected at this conference. The attendance is barely down from last year, despite the fact that all battery materials have been materially weak. But it shows that the industry is maturing, it's growing, and there's a lot of interest, and there's new players always entering the space, and those new players are like, okay, I got to talk to some people who have been around a long time. So yeah, we can actually even mentor not only young people, but some older people from the oil industry and the like that are now coming into this, value the depth of experience and context that we have.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, your platform, your podcast platform, your channel enables you to mentor everyone.
Yes.
Like they just need to tune in, right?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
ultimately what it comes down to. What do you think the biggest misconception that people have about the lithium market at the moment, the lithium sector at the moment?
I kind of disaggregate the industry, right,
Yeah.
from the equity markets, right?
Okay.
So I think the biggest misconception, from the a big misconception in the industry is that lithium is a specialty chemical and not a commodity. Okay, so from an industry point of view, it's not a commodity, right? So it is special, right? But some people thought that because it was special, right, it might not experience the same kind of volatility that is evident in the equity market for other commodities. But in fact, the opposite's been the case, right? It's been more volatile than traditional commodities, right? So lulling yourself into thinking that, lithium's a specialty chemical, it therefore will be less volatile and it should trade at a higher multiple, has proven, disastrously wrong for those who thought that we somehow, have identified something that will not be like a copper, like an iron, or like an oil, when in fact it's been worse than that, right? The volatility has been worse.
Absolutely. Do you think it's likely in the future to be as much of a sort of talked about commodity as, for example, Brent crude? Do you think we could have business shows talking about the price of lithium after talking about the price of Brent? Lithium
was coming out of the mouth of Elon Musk for 2 or 3 quarters in a row on his quarterly call, like 24, 25 times. I counted, in like 2022.
Yeah.
And lithium was on the lips of CNBC and everywhere, like rare earths are today.
Yeah.
But that was because the lithium price was going up. Rare earths, the price hasn't gone up that much. It's just in the press because of the negotiations with China. I do believe that lithium again will be talked about significantly when the price is rising. Like right now, it's not talked about so much because people think that they don't need to worry about it, right? They thought they had to worry about it a couple of years ago because the price was so high, and battery costs, which have been going down every year for like 10 years, one year it went up because the lithium price had gone up so much. But now it's gone back down because lithium prices have gone back down. But if we have a recovery in lithium prices and battery prices maybe go up because of those lithium price increases, you're going to start to see the media talk about it again.
What do you think the mood is in the investor community right now? Are people repositioning?
The equity market opinion toward lithium is mostly still substantially negative.
Yeah.
However, there are contrarian investors. In the case of Rio Tinto, obviously, they've made some big acquisitions and they've been a contrarian. But I found, and we've talked about this on our podcast, that interestingly, within the Middle East, this is not Israel plus, the broader, Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia. They're big believers, despite the fact that Saudi Arabia is the biggest oil producer in the world. I mean, they have a plan to be 50% renewables, right, by, 2035 or 2040. And there's a lot of optimism in the Middle East. We have a family office investor that's invested in 2 Argentine brines. They put in $30 million in the past year into the space. They're taking, contrarian bet. So sentiment in the Middle East is good. Sentiment in Australia is very bad. Sentiment in Canada is very bad. Sentiment in America, is bad. But, again, we're closer. It's unsustainable. Prices are unsustainably low. And those who are, have a 3-year view, if you're buying into lithium equities now, we've been reluctant to call the bottom for the past 1 to 2 years because valuations were still relatively high to where we were in the last bottom. But now valuations are getting to the point in select stocks where they're trading below their replacement value. And these are producing companies, right? So that's unsustainable. And so that has to change. That will turn. And you could double or triple your money in producing lithium equities, in my opinion, with a 3-year view. But you got to be selective. And, we've talked about a few of them on our show. But anyone who's interested to hear that, they could email us and we're happy to have kind of one-on-one dialogue.
Are there financial products that encompass the market, or do you have to buy individual companies?
There are some ETFs. There's the Global X Lithium and Battery Technology Index, but it used to be a lithium focused. Now it's like 30% lithium and 70% battery tech, so includes Tesla and BYD and CATL. So it's not a pure play lithium, but if you want a diverse kind of global way, that's one way to play it. Sprott introduced a lithium specific ETF. I think it's called LITP. At not a great time because they launched it and the prices went down, but that's a way to play purely lithium. And there's probably a few others, but those were the two that I would mention if you wanted to get broad-based exposure to lithium equities specifically.
I'd love to find out more about your show. It sounds really interesting. So it's lithium ion rocks.
Rocks. It's now called Rock Stock Channel.
So it's your Rock Stock Channel.
Yeah, it used to be called Lithium Ion Rocks, the audio podcast. So Rock Stock Channel. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcast and many other podcast platform in both video and audio form. And we also write a newsletter called the Lithium Ion Bull that comes out monthly. That summarizes. That has like a lead article, but it also contains summaries of all the interviews that we did, written summaries of all the interviews that we did in that month on Rock Stock Channel.
It's, lithium's quite a niche market. Were you surprised at the breadth and enthusiasm of your audience? Because it really has grown.
It is niche. We call, this is narrowcasting our channel. It's not broadcasting. But a lot of the people in this room, the 1,000 people that are attending this conference, we reach the people here. So we reach retail investors, we reach institutional investors, we reach industry insiders at both junior companies and established producers like Albemarle and SQM and the like. I've always said, like, little lithium, it is a small industry, but relative to other small commodities, it has a very large presence and voice. And I think it's because it's growing so fast, but it's also because there have been some American publicly traded companies who talk about it every quarter. So Albemarle, SQM, Arcadium and Livent before it got acquired by Rio Tinto, compared to some other niche commodities that we're hearing now in the market, like graphite doesn't have a lot of public companies that are in production. Nickel, very few. Cobalt, very few. And then all these rare earths, et cetera, very few. So lithium has had a more powerful voice as a way to play like the battery thematic because there are investable public equities.
Okay, so your career has taken very interesting paths, not least the fact that you have now a very well-known channel and podcast. Was there a sort of moment, a deal or a decision or a catastrophe that has influenced the rest of your career? Was there a moment where you're like, it turned on a dime, it turned on that moment?
For sure. When I was in between jobs looking to be a broker again, someone introduced me to Robert Friedland, right? And he was the first billionaire that I was introduced to. And within a very short period of time, I was on his private plane, visiting some of his properties. And he was, he was friends with Steve Jobs, back in the day as a hippie, in India and in the apple orchard, I don't know, in the 60s. Very charismatic, very dynamic, the best salesperson I've ever met. And like I said at the start of this, I learned at the knee of the master because he was selling his Mongolia copper story, which was called Ivanhoe Mines at the time, and a 400 million market cap, to an audience where no one was listening for 4 years. But I caught him in the last 6 months before it turned. So I introduced him to all the investors I was selling at SocGen to in New York and Boston and California, institutional investors, and just opened up the door and let him and just watched him mesmerize these investors, and the stock went from $250 to $17, right? And luckily he had given us some stock options in that, and I said, okay, I could build a business around this instead of going back to being a broker. So that clearly changed my life, for 23, 24 years ago.
Okay, so final question, and I'm asking this of all our Live Lounge guests. What will be your biggest takeaway when you leave this conference? I like that you're thinking. I like that you're thinking.
So the lithium has become a major part of my identity. I'm wearing kind of Rockstock Channel as my hat. So I'm the Lithium Bull is the name of my newsletter. It's my handle on Twitter. And every time I come and I get connected, I have so many friends here. And there's like a lot of stories. And as I meet some people some of them I haven't met for 7 or 8 years. And I remember, I met you in the last bear market. I met you at the top of the, at the bull market. So I'm just leaving with just a great positive feeling that I have. We're part of a community here. There's a little bit of a kumbaya because everybody who, is optimistic here and is believer, of it. But this is a very important part of my extended family. It's my life. So that's the main takeaway, is just that positive vibe. And we also have a great relationship with Fastmarkets and all the people at Fastmarkets who we interact with here. We have a very strong relationship with them, and that's part of the family.
Amazing. Well, it's absolutely fabulous that you were able to take time out to chat to us at the Fastmarkets Live Lounge. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
no one here who knows more about this market than you.
Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you very much indeed. Amazing. Great fun to flip the script there with Howard and, get him to talk, get him to do the interview with me instead. I hope you've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much to everyone here who's listening on their headphones. And thank you to you listening later on. This, of course, is the Fastmarkets Live Lounge, brought to you courtesy of Aquatech. And if you want to watch the rest of the series, remember you can find us on nearly all of your podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. The full videos are available on our Fastmarkets channel on YouTube. We're also on all the social media platforms, so if you want to like, follow and comment, those are probably the best places to do it. We also share our highlights there. But first and foremost, thank you very much for listening.